Some significant news out of Quebec today, the province hardest hit so far in this crisis. It released its projections for COVID-19's spread and toll on the public. Officials presented both an optimistic and a pessimistic scenario, since it all depends on to what degree people are adhering to physical distancing measures. The CBC's Nancy Wood has been looking through the numbers. She joins us now. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Vashi.
Thanks very much for joining us. What did provincial officials have to say about the scenarios they presented?
Well, they're very short-term forecasts. They bring us only until the end of April, and they think we'll reach our peak here in Quebec on April 18th, and then the curve will flatten. And hopefully, by the end of the month, we will start to allow people to gradually resume their lives. And the experts here basically used three models. Italy, where cases got out of hand and thousands of people died. Portugal, which was quick to close its border with Spain and had relatively few cases. And Germany, which has had a lot of cases, but also has a low death rate. So the optimistic scenario, let's look at this one first, is a combination of Portugal and Germany. Our public health experts say we're much closer to this best case scenario at this point. Right now, Quebec has about 9,000 cases of COVID-19, but keep in mind we're not testing everyone. Anyone who's asymptomatic or who has light symptoms just doesn't get tested. Best case scenario, we end up with around 29,000 cases by the end of April. Worst case scenarios, we end up with 59,000. Now for the scary stuff, deaths. The best case puts us at just over 1,200. To put that in perspective, we have only 150 deaths right now. So we're talking about a best case scenario, which sees more than 1,000 people die in the next 3 weeks. And the worst case scenario is where more than 8,000 more people die. The worst case scenario is almost 9,000 deaths, 8,860 to be precise, by the end of this month. Now, in terms of cases of people in hospital, right now we're just under 600. The optimistic projection puts us at about 1,400 in hospital, about 468 in intensive care. And the peak comes later on in the month, part of that flattening of the curve and delaying hospitalizations. Now, the worst case scenario would be about 3,000 in hospital by late next week, with 1,000 people in intensive care. But even there's some good news. Quebec has 6,000 beds ready, and it says it has more than enough ventilators. And all of this is short term. I mentioned the experts say at this point they can't accurately predict beyond end of April. And the Premier said earlier today, all of these predictions only work if people remain disciplined. In particular, he said this is not the time to invite family over for Easter or Passover.
Yeah, and we keep hearing from public health officials, Nancy, that this isn't a crystal ball. But I think many Canadians are watching the various modeling coming out of Quebec in this case, and Alberta tonight, Saskatchewan tomorrow, Ontario last week. And they're really curious about what it means for how long they're going to have to live this way. What did officials have to say about that in Quebec today?
Well, the public health officials said even if things go really well, those measures are not going to be lifted all of a sudden. They are going to evaluate the situation day by day and at the end of the month. And if it warrants, they'll start lifting some of the measures. But if this is any indication of things to come, the city of Montreal announced today it's canceling all festivals, sporting events, public gatherings on its turf until July 2nd. And earlier today, organizers of the Montreal Grand Prix said it's not going to happen in June. It is going to be postponed. So basically, we're gearing up for the long haul here, even though there could be some good news in about 3 weeks. And some of us may be able to get back to life kind of like normal.
Well, we're sure hoping for that optimistic scenario. Thanks so much, Nancy. Really appreciate
You're welcome.
Your insights this evening. The CBC's Nancy Wood. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.